Good evening, everyone. It's Jackie Van Workum, founder of Grieving Moms Finding Hope, and welcome to Hope After the Landslide. I try to change things up a little bit and go into a different location throughout the house and outside, and tonight I decided I'm just going to hang out here in front of all of my wonderful resources. I love reading. So tonight we're going to talk about resurfacing. And many of you know that, I wrote this book as a tool to help each and every one of you to get up and out of your landslide and to be able to resurface. And, I'm mainly concerned about your health, and I'm concerned about your healing. And I'm also here to give you that little nudge to be able to just keep going. Just keep going. I want to begin by saying hi to Michelle and Allison and sunny Southern California and Kathy. And you guys can go ahead and put that in your comments over here where you're viewing from. I would love to see that. And if you have a question that comes up in the middle of things, then you can ask me. And if I don't get around to it now, I can certainly come back to it after we spend this time together. So when I was thinking about talking to you about resurfacing, I thought so much about, for me, it's almost been 3 years, which I can't even believe it, January 15th, 2016. And oftentimes, in order to relate to people that have just experienced this, you kind of have to take yourself there, and it's not, so fun. But I thought that tonight would be appropriate because a lot of you may not know, our story, and I would just read the letter that I have in here from the resurfacing book. So it says, on January 15th, my son, Randall Lawrence Van Workum, completely lost hope because of what life handed him and by his wrongful choice on how to resolve it. He attempted to send his family to heaven so they wouldn't have to suffer from the shame he had caused them. I believe God sent his angels into that place of desperation and said, no, you will not be the one who has a say-so in your family in taking their last breath. Miraculously, my daughter-in-law, her father, and my 2 beautiful grandsons survived this attempt, this horrible attempt. The countless amount of incoming and outgoing phone calls that occurred throughout that evening and into the early morning hours could only be described as being buried and frozen deep beneath the landslide. 2 days before my son's passing, I went to Yosemite all alone to do what I call kneeling and healing after the Christmas chaos that was in our house. I'm by nature an introvert. I know a lot of people don't understand that because they think a lot of people that do what I'm doing are extroverts, and that's not true. Requiring the lone time to get filled back up. I went out to snowshoe on a trail off the beaten path, and I looked to my right, and as Stevie Nicks quoted in her song Landslide, I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hill till the landslide brought it down. A couple weeks after the landslide hit, I was watching one of the Lord of the Rings movies with my son Ryan. We watched the scene where the hobbits were crossing over the snowy mountain when they too were buried beneath a sudden landslide. One by one, they resurfaced, gasping for air and mentally wrestling for irrational thoughts for their survival. The camera then zooms into the aged face of Gandalf, the lines on his face etched by experiential wisdom. My son looked at me, no words were exchanged, but at that moment our hearts united in agreement of feeling the same as they did. I immediately related to Gandalf and that I was chosen to save this family up and out of our landslide. I needed to summit this mountain, seek hope, breathe in this thin air, and view from above how God wanted. The verse that kept coming to my mind was in 2 Corinthians 4:8-10, where it says, we are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. We always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. Your experience may also feel like you were buried in a sudden landslide. When it happened, your body, mind, and spirit froze just long enough to be protected. And the only manual that brings hope is God's word and his promises. Hi to Tammy from Reading and to Sarah in Florida. Thanks you guys for being here. It really just makes me feel good to have you guys. I'll just pretend like it's in the room, same room together. And again, if you have any questions or comments you'd like to make. I also wanted to tell you, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, why are you doing this, Jackie? And, you know, people know that have to know that there's not a lot of money in books, really. And to be honest, it's like we're not even out of the red in that. And that's not even the point. And I'm just being raw and real with you. But I really wanted to write how I felt. And that's been my source of healing, so much of my healing. But you have to pay, you know, editors and printers and people to put it into a book form. And so here we are. I mean, if I could, I would gift it to everyone. But the main reason that I really am doing this is, and I just had affirmation in a movie that I just saw, and it was called The Rider, and I believe it was a Sundance film. I can't promise that there were not a few, you know, wrong choice of words here and there, but the movie was, I don't, just came to me after the movie was over, you know, the whole meaning that I took a lot deeper, and that was, and in brief, it was, you know, a bunch of rodeo guys, and they were riding, you know, bucking horses, and this one boy had this horrific accident requiring him to have surgery and maybe even a plate in his head, and his whole head was sutured up, and he was told, you know, he should never ride again and never go out there and be in the rodeo. And to him, that was his life. You know, that was his everything. That was why he felt like he was on this earth, right? And so he went into depression, you know, and he was really upset, and nobody could hardly talk to him at all. It was just a, I mean, you could really just put yourself in his place, because we as grieving moms are in this place where, you know, we really can't go back to that place again to where we had our child with us anymore. And that's why we're trying to resurface, and everything looks different to us. But here's the part I loved about the movie, which was finally he went and visited a friend of his that wasn't so fortunate, that had another rodeo accident, had concussion, but it actually left a lot of brain damage to where he was confined to a wheelchair and he couldn't talk, and he was kind of wasting away. But he started to go down and visit with him, and he actually brought in a saddle and put him on the saddle, and with help of the nurses and everyone, they were able to rock him back and forth and to give him that feeling, that joy again, that, you know, he could no longer have. And little by little, this was more of like a thing that he kept doing. Like first it was once a week, then twice a week, and then he kept going, and he started to feel good about himself, and he started to come to this realization that he was no longer, you know, going to be able to ride, because it could, you know, come to his death. And so instead of trying to bring something back that he couldn't do anymore, he all of a sudden started to give these other boys lessons on how to ride. Now, if I were the parents, I probably wouldn't allow my kid to do that, but I'm just saying. But that was where he found his joy. So he was helping others through his pain. And that, in short or in long, is exactly what I'm doing. I am trying to take this pain and I'm trying to reach out and to help others. And, you know, you may not like the way that I'm doing it, and that's okay. You know, there's plenty of other help that's out there. But sincerely, I have this tool that we go through 12 weeks together, either in a church or in a home or in these Zoom rooms that we have that looks similar to this. In fact, later I'll post a picture of my Zoom call that I did with a couple of the moms the other day. And we just get together and we talk things that you just can't talk to with other friends. The conversations that you just want to have, but you can't, because nobody, you know, seems to understand. And if you want more information about that, the registration is at the top of this this viewing. It says group registration. And the other thing, and then I'm going to continue on with what I want to say, but I know I'm going to forget, because I can only be with you guys for an hour, or I'm sorry, 30 minutes every week like this. And that's, you know, I'm not the savior. You know, I'm here to nurture. And that was taken from my good friend Catherine, who gave me that beautiful line to say, I can't save everybody. And I know that intellectually, but as a mom, you don't want to experience any more pain. But I also have a Hope at Sunrise devotion, and usually goes out on Facebook. But if you want it to come into your own email every day, in your personal email, so you don't have to get on Facebook, it'll go in there. It's complimentary. Just go to the grievingmoms.com website and you will be able to sign up for that. I really encourage you to do that. I have it's an outlet for me, and I share a lot of my adventures and things that I go through personally, and as I'm going through my grieving. So to continue on, it's like I start babbling on and then I have to remember where I was. So I wanted to read something from, I don't know if you've ever seen this, maybe a lot of people gave me a ton of books, as I'm sure that they did for you. And this is a beautiful book written by Jerry Sitzer, and it's called Grace Disguised. And the way he describes, he lost his wife and his mother, and I don't know if it was one or two children, and I apologize, I can't remember. But I'm just going to read this little section here to you because I loved how his wording and how he goes through his life with this horrific grief is so anointed. He said, I learned to live and mourn simultaneously, and after 3 years, I continue to live in that tension. But there is a significant difference now. The sorrow I feel has not disappeared, but it has been integrated into my life as a painful part of a healthy whole. Initially, my loss was so overwhelming to me that it was the dominant emotion, sometimes the only emotion I had. I know you can all relate to this. I felt like I was staring at the stump of a huge tree that had just been cut down in my backyard. That stump, and this is really a very good analogy, so listen to this, please. That stump, which sat all alone, kept reminding me of the beloved tree that I had lost. I could think of nothing but that tree, and every time I looked out the window, all I could see was that stump. Eventually, however, I decided to do something about it. I landscaped my backyard, reclaiming it once again as my own. I decided to keep the stump there since it was both too big and too precious to remove. Instead of getting rid of it, I worked around it. I planted shrubs, trees, flowers, and grass. I laid out a brick pathway and built 2 benches, and then I watched everything grow. Now, 3 years later, the stump remains, still reminding me of the beloved tree that I lost, but the stump is surrounded by a beautiful garden of blooming flowers and growing trees and lush grass. Likewise, the sorrow I feel remains, but I have to try to create a landscape around the loss so that what was once ugly is now an integral part of a larger, lovely whole. I just really, really love that because it just really explains in so many words. I want to say hi to Margie and Mary and Lori Heineken. Hi, Lori. Thank you guys for being here. Again, if you're just coming on, this is Hope After the Landslide, and you guys can put in here where you're viewing from. We'd like to know where you're viewing from and what time zone that you're at. I know for some of you it's like probably 9 o'clock and you're probably in your jammies. So, but thank you for taking the time to be here. So the next thing I wanted to share with you was to talk about the breakthrough phase. And these are all the phases that I talk about in my resurfacing book. And so when we talk about the current phase of pain and grief, it's the replaying the day of the landslide in your mind over and over, feeling like you are somehow responsible for their death. You and your spouse do not understand each other's grief. The if-onlys creep into our thoughts on a regular basis. We feel helpless to move forward and feeling like this will never end. And these are some of the things we go through when we're talking together. And I have the ladies circle, and then we kind of talk about it a little bit, and we kind of help again them move forward. And sometimes, you know, some of the moms will, it's really fresh, and then maybe they've never shared the story before, and they'll really go into that heavy, heavy cry. And a lot of times we just have to stop and pray in the midst of that. And it's okay, because then in a minute or two, like, we can be laughing about something really funny, and which seems to be impossible in the middle of grieving, but your kids want you to laugh. You know, they want you to continue on with your life, and you will see them again. So the next part I wanted to share with you also, so in the breakthrough phase, which is kind of more or less what we're really talking about, is breakthrough, resurfacing, right? We're kind of done with the frozen phase, and don't, you know, get me wrong, it's like sometimes we're going to go back into that frozen phase. There is nobody that's going to tell you, oh, you've already been in the frozen phase too long, you know, you have to get up and move on. And trust me, your friends will gently remind you if you aren't trying to move forward, and because you don't want to stay stuck. That is for sure. So the breakthrough phase is our face breaks through the frozen snow. We gasp, taking that first breath of air. We see and feel the warmth of family and friends telling us, we're here for you. exhaustion and reality also surface. So we slowly peek out of the landslide, and the adrenaline necessary to breathe beneath our frozen phase minimizes. We are weak and weary to participate in the world around us, and we try to find life again. It requires so much to keep warm when we are in that frozen phase. Once thawed, our hearts begin beating again. However, we may return, as I said, to the impact of that landslide. And that's why, I always talk about, a search and rescue team. And a lot of times when we're in the group, I have a lot of moms that will bring to my attention, like I had this really amazing friend, and she basically just told me that she can't be there for me because it's something that she just can't handle. So you have these expectations of people, that you feel should be the ones that are there. Maybe they've been your friend for 20 years, but now all of a sudden it's almost like, you have this mask on, like you're contagious. And some people are afraid that it may happen to their family. All of a sudden they'll start paying attention to their kids a little bit more, thinking, oh my gosh, like, Kyle was like really in a bad mood the other day, or, they were just like really angry and I haven't seen them, I haven't talked to them. And then they start worrying like, oh my gosh, what if they're going to take their life? Or maybe you're pregnant and you have a friend that's lost a baby, they had a stillborn, and I can't even imagine that either. But then during your pregnancy, you start, really getting concerned. And so you don't even want to be around that friend that just lost her baby. And these are all normal thoughts, friends. I get that. But the one thing I hear the moms say over and over again is, I want to talk about my child. So here's where I have to go over into a Jackeism. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, how many of you were kind of wondering, like, what the heck is this elephant doing here, right? Okay, so this would be another fun thing that took place when we were on a group call. And I went into one of my rooms that I still haven't unpacked, and I wanted to show them what my day was going to be. And I don't know if Dina, you're watching, but I think she was laughing the hardest. She was at Starbucks. She didn't have Wi-Fi, so she's at Starbucks, and she was probably embarrassed. She was laughing so hard. And maybe I had to be there. But anyways, I walked in, and there's all these boxes that are in there. And there's this box of stuffed animals because my little grandson's got so many stuffed animals during our landslide. And I started pulling things out, and I was like, look at this. Who needs a cowboy nutcracker? And who needs to have, look, it was a jackalope. And then all of a sudden I said, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And all of a sudden it was like, we all started to go into this conversation about the elephant in the room. And what am I saying? Okay, so how many times have you been invited to, coffee with your friends, or the holidays are coming up, and that's a whole other topic that I will be talking about, because I know the anticipation of that is sometimes beyond, you can't even handle it. But so anyway, you're invited to a party or someplace that you want to go, and even with your own immediate family. I know one of the moms that just shared about a wedding that she was invited to, and she was absolutely adamant that she was not going to go. And all of a sudden it was like her sisters begged her, please, 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 just come. We rented a place to stay at, and you could come and just hang out with us, just so you could be with us, but you don't have to go to the wedding. And she ended up going, which was a beautiful thing. And her family was there, and they didn't want to talk about her loss. They didn't want to talk about the loss of her child. And she all of a sudden took note of it. We all take note of it, and again, I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of times we want to talk about the loss of our child. When we tell the story, it takes away its power. Now, not everybody is going to want to hear that, right? But oftentimes you'll get people, again, like avoiding you. You might be in a room gathered with a bunch of people, and maybe just a general gathering, and people, you've showed up with a couple of your friends, but there's people in the room that have not seen you since this whole landslide has happened, and you could tell they're avoiding you. You know that you're in the grocery store and you've seen somebody walking down an aisle, and they skipped 2 aisles, so they didn't have to have that conversation with you. People don't want to talk to us about the loss because they don't want to bring up something that could cause us to cry or is going to hurt us. And yet So they just avoid it. So, there's a section in the resurfacing book that is called Dealing with Other People. And dealing with other people sounds terrible, but I just wanted to bring, an awareness, if you will, to not get mad at people. There are people that were intentionally are going to hurt you, and that's because of their own reasons. Don't ever take it personally. But then there's people that are going to just say things that are going to, in fact, I was just talking to my friend this morning on a bike ride about it. She hasn't lost a child, and I was just sharing with her some of my experiences, and she's like, yeah, she goes, sometimes we just say the dumbest things because, we're kind of in shock. And when we see you, it's the unimaginable. It's that place that we'd never want to think about having happen. And so, again, you go in this room, but yet there's this elephant in the middle of the room. And everybody knows about it, everybody sees it, but nobody wants to talk about it. And I just want to say, it's like, just grab the elephant and just say, you know what? We need to talk about this. I lost my son, and my heart hurts. But you know what? Like, I still want to be your friend, and I still want you to invite me to places. And okay, now we'll get rid of the elephant. And I still want to laugh with you, and I need you. How hard is it for us to say that? I need you. I need, period. Say that to anybody. So it's really important to talk about people and let them know how you're feeling, and you can kind of break the ice a little bit, with them. And then I want to take you over to this one other part, and these are declarations. And I think that, and this is also in the lookup phase of the book, and I think it's really important. And if you have to play this over and over again, or if you have the book, then please read it. It's on page 37, and it says, read these declarations aloud together. Feel the power in the room that comes from your declarations. And I think I've pretty much shared this with you before, but I can't tell you how important it is, because what we speak is so very important. Like, if you're saying things like, I'm never going to get through this, I don't know if I can live anymore, these are all things that we don't want to say. We want to try as hard as we can. I know, friends, I totally understand the pain that you're feeling. I was there, and I still am there. So this is God's truth for you. The truth is, God will make me whole again. Yes, He will. The truth is, there is life after losing my child. Yes, there is. And I am living it right now, and I am enjoying it. And, I often tell people, I'm like, I get therapy even going out and mucking outside of my backyard for my horses. And, there's a lot of chores to do here, and I just can get so lost in it. But there is life. And you know what? I'm always going to say this. If you had a dream while your child was living, don't think it's over. Don't think it's been extinguished. God gave you everything that you need to be able to live that dream out. And from your pain, you're going to be that much stronger. And you're going to put aside some of those things that maybe you were fearful of as to wanting to pursue that dream. I encourage you to do that. And I also want to tell you, too, on a side, that I am going to start doing some life coaching here. And it'll be on the Grieving Mom's Facebook page, or I'm sorry, on the Grieving Mom's website. It'll be a tab, and there'll be an opportunity to get some life coaching. And I am a certified life coach, and I had done this before. I don't want to call it grief coaching, because you're going to grieve the way that you need to grieve. I just want to help you in those areas that you feel stuck. And I feel so confident to know that God has inspired me to do this. I've been doing it for a long time. So the truth is, I'm still here. The truth is, I am still needed by other people in my life, whether I can see it or not right now. The truth is, my other children, grandchildren need me, my spouse needs me, and my family and friends need me. The truth is, I still have a purpose here on earth to accomplish while I'm still here. That's what I just said. The truth is, God heals me when I share my pain with others. And again, you may see that a lot of people don't really want to hear that, and I get it, but there's going to be those people, and mostly the grieving moms. Those are the ones that we can have these conversations with. And I've had numbers of conversations with these moms. They have become some of my closest friends, because now they don't tolerate, things anymore like they did, like, gossip or petty things, or it's like, this is it, this is life. And after what I've been through, I'm just going to be raw and real. And another thing that some of the moms share with me is that I think we have a tendency to be a little bit more emotional, and not on a place where you're weeping and crying all the time, although we do that. But I'm saying where we have more of a boldness. We don't have that timidity that we did before in sharing with other people, whether it's our faith, just going deep with them and asking them sincerely how they are, because we feel like, what do we got to lose, And just don't forget, some people can't handle that, especially if you find them out. Just like you point out something and they're like thinking, how did she know that about me? Well, that's because we've been through the worst possible nightmare. So again, the truths are on page 37. And then I just wanted to share a little bit about we talked about I need. Ladies, during this time, I mentioned earlier that my friend told me to, Jackie, be a nurturer, not a savior. And those words they have just stuck in my head, because I don't want to experience any more pain. And I know you don't either. And we have a tendency, though, to do that. We have a tendency to put ourselves last. We're always last. Let me cook a meal for you. I'll do the dishes. I'll do the laundry. I'll go out and get the groceries. Or, you put yourself last after your children, the other children that are here. Of course, I get that. And talk to your other children. If you have other children that have also lost, someone very dear to them, their brother or their sister. And, they're going to ask you at some point, gosh, Mom, aren't you over this? Come on, it's been X amount of time, whatever. And they're going to just wonder why that you're not getting through it. And the translation to that, I hope you know this, is they just want Mom back. They just want to see that smile on her face. They just want to see her laugh and do silly things. I mean, I'm the queen of doing silly things around my house, and I think it's kind of a gauge as to when everybody knew that I was getting better. I was, St. Patrick's Day, I was putting green dye in the toilet bowls, or, whatever it is that I do just to be silly. Some of the fun things that I do. But you need to take care of yourselves. Again, I'm going to encourage you, get that massage. Use that gift certificate that somebody gave you for a massage. Go out to the movies. Go out for coffee with someone. And I know you're not going to feel like doing that all the time. I get it. But most importantly, get in a group with other moms. Again, that's why I'm here. I'm not here to, like I said, I'm not here to make any money to do this. I am just so enlightened and encouraged, and I heal the most when I can see a mom go from that frozen phase to that place where we can be laughing and having a good time together. And we're during the middle of the day, like I'll get a text from one of them, hey Jackie, you weren't on Facebook Live last week. I just want to check in and see how you were. Genuinely wanting to know how I'm doing. You can't put a price tag on that, friends. And that's, again, the only ones who are going to understand that. I have moms that are leading groups in churches. I've got moms that are leading groups in their homes. I've got moms that are on the Zoom calls with us. And again, it's so very simple. And, you could be, I could be sitting here right now with my regular shirt, and you have no idea that I could be in my pajamas from the bottom down. I'm not, but a lot of the moms have done that, and we've all had a laugh about it. But it's just a place for you to just be. You hear me talk about that all of the time. Just be. Just be yourself. Just say what you need. Tell everybody, if you need to go and have quiet time with God, and even though there's a ton of stuff that needs to be done, or maybe you're a caretaker for an elderly parent, whatever it is, you are not the savior. You are a nurturer, and you need to have that time to get you filled back up. So I hope to see you guys on here next week. I believe next week I'm going to have my new dear friend Michelle join us. She's been on here before. She lost her son, and she's very inspiring. She's helping to lead a group in her church, and she's also helping to do one at Saddleback Church down in Lake Forest, California. So from Bend, Oregon, and it is 6:30 on the money. I hope that you have a good rest of your evening, and we will be here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I look forward to, and again, if anybody wants to be here to share their story and talk about something that they've been through and they want to share to help the moms, you know, just go ahead and message me, and it's Jackie@grievingmoms.com. You can always do that as well. So God bless you guys. Take care of you.